Our next speaker is Eduardo Samaniego. He is a senior at Freedom University and an advocate for immigration reform. He enjoys photography, tennis, and ethnic studies, and he would like to spark change in the world by promoting equality. Please welcome Eduardo.
Thank you, everyone. I'm too a little nervous, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. I guess I could just stand here for a few seconds. So I want to begin by telling you a little bit of my journey and how I came to the United States and eventually found Freedom University. Before that, I had to take you back in time to 10 years ago when I was in Mexico. I grew up raised by my grandparents. My mom was a single mom who had to work far away from home in order to pay the bills and provide me with a better education. I remember waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning to do the daily work that I found required. I remember that I was very tired, but after the hard work, I still had to go to school by 8 a.m. in the morning. After school, most of my classmates were planning on what to do or where to go for a night out, but not me, because I knew that there was hard work that needed to be done. The time kept passing by, and by the age of 16, I remember how my family described the United States as the country of freedom and liberty, where everything and your dreams come true. And it is for that reason that I always wanted to come to the United States. It wasn't until the age of 16 that I told my mother that Mexico had become a black and white movie, and that there was nothing else for me, that I wanted to go somewhere else because I wanted to do better, to do more, and to change the world. My mother didn't understand, and I just tried to explain it over and over. And I remember that on my birthday, I told my mother that I had to go away because I was in a cage. And every time I looked into the horizon, I saw the United States, and I saw a whole range of colors to explore. So that night with me, I remember being so frustrated. My grandparents were away. I was alone. I remember that I tried to take my life away that night. After that, I remember waking up and looking into my mother's eyes. And she said, why would you do this? Why would you do this to your family? Why would you do this to you? And I replied, because I'm afraid. I'm afraid that my dreams are not going to come true. And she said, but you have the power to do anything. You can do anything you want as long as you work for it. So that day, I realized that I could do something. And my mother also realized how much I needed to go somewhere else, how much I needed to be in the United States to be able to do the things that I wanted to do. So after a few months, that was one of the happiest days of my life because I had a visa in my hands. My mother had been able to get me a visa, and I will be on my way to the United States in a few days. So shortly after that, I came to the United States, and I found myself, living with new people that I had never seen before. I remember my very first day in high school. That was the most touching day in my life, and probably the happiest too. I remember, can you only imagine being in Mexico where I had a hard time finding a pencil to write with, that I had to walk to my school, where I had to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning to go to work. And now I was in the United States. My first day in high school, there was a lot of lights in the classroom. There were computers, projectors. A bus was gonna pick me up and take me to school. How cool was that? So that day, I knew that now it was up to me to do my part and to reach out and to change the world. So I kept working, I started working, I was going full speed. And after only 6 months, I remember that I was now able to speak, fluent English. I was writing exceptional essays, and I was now competing at national level. That was the moment where I told myself, you are doing it. You have, you have everything, you want it. So now keep working, and everything is gonna come true. All your dreams are gonna come true. But life had a different perspective from my expectations. After only 8 months, I became homeless because of harsh anti-immigrant laws. I remember that, can you imagine being in another country by yourself? Your family is thousands of miles away from you, and the only person that you can confide on is, a friend that you had only met a few months ago. That was probably one of the hardest moments in my life. So I was homeless now. What I did is I literally stayed in my high school for a few days. Nobody knew it. Why? Because I had access to everything. I was literally running the entire club system. I was president of Junior Achievement. I was president of Hispanic Honor Society. I was recognized by the National Society of High School Scholars. But there I was, homeless. Can you imagine that? So I kept working, and eventually I ended up living with a pastor from church. He supported me through my last year of high school. And whenever I had to go to the meetings in the morning, I now didn't have to walk 4 miles to my school to run the meetings. He would drive me there. After school, if I wanted to organize the pep rallies for the sports, he was there to pick me up. I now again, had everything on my side. America was on my side. America was conspiring with me to make my dreams come true. So again, I decided, that was the only obstacle that I had to overcome, to learn something, to understand, whenever obstacles come your way, it is up to you to turn them into stepping stones, and so you can reach higher. The language was never a barrier. I wasn't afraid to ask, whomever was passing by, how do you say this? How do you say enchilada in English? Did you say it like that? There was no other explanation. But I didn't know. I didn't know what was a GPA, when I first came here. I didn't know so many things, but I was willing to learn. I was willing to embrace a new culture. And I was willing to work hard and contribute to the American nation. So that's truly, something that helped me reach my goals. So there I was on my last year of high school. I was now student body president of the largest high school in Cobb County. I was recognized by my principal. I was seen by my peers as someone, that had been through a lot, but had never given up. So there I was. I remember that I was ready for graduation. I was now working a full-time job. I had everything I wanted before, So, but again, life hit me hard. When I was ready to graduate, my mom was on her way here to the United States. She was going to see her son, that she didn't understand why he wanted to come to the United States. That she didn't understand that he was a student body president at the school with 2,700 students. And, back in my town, we didn't even have that many people there. I lived in a very small town with less than 2,000 people. So now I was over here in the United States with everything. And, I kept working hard. My mom was in her way to see her son speak at the graduation ceremony. So after, she got here, and I was applying for colleges. I was accepted to a few colleges in New York, South Carolina, Georgia. But I realized that I was undocumented. So what it is to be undocumented? I had to pay out-of-state tuition. Even though I had been working so hard, even though I had over 400 hours of community service, I had my medal, and they couldn't make a new one for me because the medal was up to 300 hours of community service. So can you imagine that? I was recognized as a leader, as a friend, but I couldn't go to college because I was undocumented. In my last year, it was very difficult for me in my graduation because I knew what it meant to walk, on stage. It meant that instead of a high school diploma, I was gonna get a paper with the words banned, because that's where I was. I was banned from attending my dream university, the University of Georgia. In 2011, the University of Georgia put in place a policy which says, the policy is 4.1.6, and it says that anyone that is not legally present in the United States shall not be admitted to the top 5 universities in the state of Georgia. It doesn't matter if you've been here your entire life, if you were here because of a decision your parents made and that you weren't even aware of. You cannot apply to these 5 universities, to the University of Georgia, to Georgia Tech, to Georgia State, to Georgia Medical College, and to Georgia College and State University. If you work hard, if you do anything and everything by the book, like you've been told, it doesn't matter because you're undocumented and therefore you are in another class. So there I was in my last year with my mom here. I was getting all these letters of acceptance from different universities. I got different scholarships, but it wasn't enough because at the end I had to pay, still $5,000. Where I was gonna get that money from? My family was in Mexico. They couldn't, possibly support me. So, in 2011, after this ban on undocumented students, a group of teachers from the University of Georgia and students got together. They had to do something. There were kids that wanted to go to school. That was their dream. That were working very hard. That did everything in school by the book. That it was not possible. That shouldn't be the thing. That shouldn't be the case. That they were banned from attending these universities. So they decided that they were gonna create a new institution, and that's when Freedom University came about. Freedom University is an institution that provides college-level education for undocumented students. And if, once they see, after you attend the classes, we don't only read the books, but we have the very authors of the books, in our classrooms. This is something that is interactive. This is something that teaches you, to be aware of your surroundings and of, all the things that you shouldn't, take for granted. So after attending Freedom University, I now hope to go to another state because I cannot stay here because I want to pursue, my education. I want to be better. And now I work for Freedom University. Freedom University reaches out to the students across the state of Georgia. And if you don't have a ride, because if you're undocumented, you can drive, we're going to get you to school. It doesn't matter. That's not something that is going to be an obstacle. We have a lot of volunteers, who provide, Freedom University students with rides. And who makes this possible? Donations from people like you. People, that is interested in this because they see that these kids, they have no fault. All they want to do is go to college. They shouldn't be banned. They shouldn't have to pay out-of-state tuition when they've been living here their entire lives. They are taxpayers. They are men and women of faith. People that want to work hard. And that now they pledge allegiance to the United States flag, to the flag with the stars and stripes. They don't know their language than English. Why should they be treated as if they were not American? So, I just want to end this by saying that even though I went through all those situations, I knew that as long as I kept working hard, everything was going to be possible. Anything and everything is possible if you work and hope for it. My family is now in Mexico. Can you imagine? My mother doesn't even know that I'm banned. Because how can you tell the woman that sacrificed 10 years of her life to go to places that didn't have teachers, that didn't have running water, that were away from the civilization, to teach these kids because she knew they needed an education? How do you tell this woman, your son cannot go to college because he is undocumented? She doesn't know. She has no idea. And I have no heart. I don't have the heart to tell her that. 3 days ago, the ones that made the decision to ban me from my dream university were the border regions of Georgia. They decided, that I wasn't good enough, even though I have been working so hard. 3 days ago, they had a meeting. In this meeting, I interrupted one of their speeches, and I stood in front of them. I stood in front of the very, very, very main character of my nightmares, and I told him, "Do you think it is morally right to ban me from my dream university, even though I did all this, even though I worked so hard? But the thing that we must recognize and understand is that I'm just one. There is thousands of students across the state of Georgia and millions in America that all they want to do is contribute to this society, that all they want to do is better themselves and be able to make this state, this country, and this world a better place." So I told him, "How dare you?" And it was more on I could barely hold myself together, when I stood in front of them, because this is such a hard, subject for me to talk about. I really have to compose myself every few minutes when I tell this story, because it was so hard, but I had so much support at the same time. So what they did is they arrested me and they put me in jail. I am now charged, with criminal trespassing and obstruction of authority. And all I did is just tell them that I wanted to go to college, that I wanted to have an education. And it is not me, but it is that very student that is applying to the University of Georgia right now, that doesn't know that he is banned, that doesn't know that he has to pay out-of-state tuition, even though he doesn't speak any other language. It is for him that I'm here today. It is for the 11 million people that want to be able to call themselves an American. Because define American. Who is an American? I define American as the person that works hard, that wants to contribute to the United States of America, that are men and women of faith. That is an American. So today I stand, before you, and in representation of these thousands of students, and that kid who wants to go to college, who wants to help those around him, who wants to help his family, and who wants to make the United States of America a better country. So I urge you, stand for undocumented students, support an immigration reform, and stand for America's future. Thank you.